This video will help you create units and lessons that align to a single set of learning objectives. The content of this video is based upon the Integrated Education and Training Design Toolkit, which was developed by the American Institutes for Research, AIR, and Safal Partners. Take a moment and think about your experience with developing units and lessons that align to common objectives. What do you know already? What do you have questions about? Feel free to pause the video and then hit play when you're ready to resume. In IET programs, you'll develop units and lessons that align to common objectives that address all the components of IET. After watching this video, our goal is that you'll be able to use your IET's single set of learning objectives, or SSLOs, to identify and develop lesson plans with instructional activities and assessments, which include digital approaches as required. In Video 10, Developing a Single Set of Learning Objectives, you learned about the 5 steps that are used to create most standards-based IET curricula in Pennsylvania. This video will focus on building out contextualized units, lessons, activities, and assessments for your IET. There are several steps you'll take when you're ready to build out your contextualized units, lessons, activities, and assessments. Let's take a look at the process, and then we will go more in depth with each step. First, your team will review the common objectives to ensure they are aligned with IET goals. Next, you'll review your current materials for units and contextualized activities that could be used in your IET program. Then, you're ready to develop lesson plans that create contextualized materials and activities that are occupationally relevant. As you develop the lesson plans, you will identify when and how the objectives will be measured by assessment. Then, you can revisit objectives for the unit to ensure they align with the IET goals. Finally, you can determine what additional materials you'll need for your IET program. Now, let's look more closely at each of these tasks. Once the IET team has finalized the common objectives for each unit, which were combined to become the SSLOs, and made sure they align to the IET program goals, the instructional team is ready to begin to build out contextualized units, lessons, activities, and assessments. It is important that the team reviews the common objectives for each unit and then discusses how all 3 components will work together with the integrated curriculum. The integrated curriculum will consist of workforce training, adult education, and workforce preparation materials. Before you purchase any materials for your IET, take a moment to do a quick inventory of what you or your partners might already have on hand. The team should work together to review current materials and decide if materials are good to use as is, or if small adjustments need to be made. The team should also pay close attention to how well the materials align to the current, rigorous research that is available. For example, maybe some of the materials involve a lot of text and an image, or a diagram could be added to enhance the material for the IET instead of searching out all new material. Other materials may be outdated due to new industry regulations or tools. Take a moment to review the flowchart on the screen to help you determine if the materials you have can be used as is or repurposed for the IET, or if new materials will need to be obtained or created. An accessible version of this flowchart is available for download in the links below this video. If your team determines new materials will need to be created, please contact the IET project for a planning worksheet that can help your instructional team develop new contextualized materials. Lesson plans will contain the common objectives tied into an SSLO, but may contain other unit-specific objectives as well. An example common objective for one unit of a certified nursing assistant IET program might be, in a simulated patient intake scenario, learners will be able to read, comprehend, and follow proper nurse aid protocol to correctly interpret and record information in an electronic document with fewer than 3 errors. Using this objective, take a moment to think about how you might contextualize the instruction around it so that the 3 required components of adult education, workforce preparation, and workforce training are integrated concurrently and with sufficient intensity and quality, which will include using nurse aid protocol, reading, and recording information in an electronic document. What adjustments to current materials may be needed? What occupationally relevant materials might be added, which may include sample nurse protocol documents from a local healthcare partner? How the assessment will align to the common objective. Contextualized activities within the lesson need to be relevant and directly applicable to the learner's career pathway goals, the content of the training curriculum, and the lesson's objectives. Including authentic work materials and documents in the learning activities makes learning more meaningful and helps learners to be more prepared for employment upon completion of the IET. Occupationally relevant activities and materials also support learning content, basic literacy skills, and workforce preparation skills. One example of an occupationally relevant material might be a basic hygiene poster used in a medical facility in which a nurse aide would work. Take a moment to think about why that could be helpful for learners in a nurse aide IET. Another example of an occupationally relevant material might be a micrometer and blueprint, which someone in construction trades would use. Take a moment to think about why that could be helpful for learners in a construction trades IET. Let's look at how the example in the previous slide can be used in a contextualized activity with occupationally relevant materials. A series of problem sets is given to learners to complete. In order to do so, they need to use the following authentic materials: micrometer, simplified manufacturing specification blueprint, and a recording sheet. For this activity, problem sets will be based on the blueprint and require students to add and subtract fraction measurements. The blueprint will need to have lengths that can be measured and meaningfully added together. Students will use transferable workforce skills to observe each other's measurements critically and discuss any measurement inconsistencies. By the end of this activity, students will be able to demonstrate their ability to add and subtract fractions, use occupationally relevant materials to complete a task that mimics work in the construction trades, and observe critically for errors made individually or by another student. Remember, learners need to not only be able to use skills in the context of the training, but also be able to transfer skills to other life and work tasks. Take a moment to think about other basic life activities that may use some of these same skills. Maybe you realized a student might have to use the same skills of referring to a document, adding fractions, and observing critically when increasing ingredients for a recipe in preparation for a large family gathering. Once lesson plans are complete, the IET instructional team should review all assessments to confirm they properly assess academic and workforce objectives within lesson plans, and provide instructors with the information they need to determine if the common objectives for the unit were met by the learners. The instructional team should discuss additional assessments that may need to be completed during and after the IET program to ensure the learners are prepared to complete any required industry certification or pre-employment tests. Once the instructional team has created the contextualized units, lessons, activities, and assessments, the IET team should review everything to make sure the objectives and activities align to the learner, project, and program goals. If any goals do not have an objective or any objectives do not match a goal, the team should determine if changes need to be made to the goals and/or SSLOs. The IET project is able to provide support to help review the final contextualized units, lessons, activities, and assessments. Here are some suggestions on how you can apply what you have learned in this video. The IET project staff is available to provide customized technical assistance to help you develop units, lessons, activities, and assessments that align to the SSLO. You can also work with your occupational training provider and employers to gather occupationally relevant materials that can be used to inform your learning objectives and be used by teachers in your IET program. You can also work with your IET team members and other appropriate partners to complete the instructional planning section of the IET planning tool. Please contact the IET project if you have questions or if you'd like more information or support about developing and offering IETs for your learners. Click on the link below to view the contact information for the IET project staff.